Om. 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 Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamatsyaadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhasha Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. We are on the topic, the main topic that is going on is about Viveka. Viveka is discrimination, and the highest definition of discrimination is separation or differentiation between the self and the not self. Bhagwan explained in detail what the not self is. The reason is if we have to discriminate, we have to know both the things. Two things are being looked at. We are being told that they are different. Then we have to know both. Otherwise, how will we know what is the differences between the two? So the not self was explained first, and now the topic of the self is going on, and it started with 124, verse 124, where Bhagwan first word 120 verse word 124, he says, now I will tell you about the self, and he begins the description with asti, it is. Okay, so there is something, an absolute entity, which is the eternal substratum for this entire world. So Jiva and Ishvara, both, and Jagat are all superimposed on that reality. And it is the witness of the three states. And the three states are the waking, dream, and deep sleep states. So what is indicated is that there is a waker, there is a dreamer, and there is a deep sleeper. And we experience those states throughout our life, throughout every day. But there is something beyond these three. And the proof of that is the memory that we have after we wake up. So I have memory of what happened yesterday. I do have memory of the dream, if I've had any at night. And then I also have memory of the fact that I slept well or I did not sleep well and I knew nothing. And that's what tells us. And then the description goes on to say that that which knows everything that happens in the waking, like who is the one that knows? I know what is happening. I know that I'm speaking. The main point is I exist, and same time I know that I'm existing. And that is what the supreme consciousness is. Okay, so, and it is the essence behind the ego. We will see that. And then that which sees all, but nobody can see it. The famous example of Gurudev is the flashlight and its batteries. So the flashlight is the one that illumines everything around it, but if it is asked to look at its own batteries, it cannot. And that's what it is with us. Because of the presence of this consciousness, the pure consciousness, the reflection of pure consciousness within us, we can see everything that is going around us. We have the memory of all the three states, waking, dream, and deep sleep states, but we cannot see that consciousness with our senses. Okay. And that which is the yena vishwamidam vyaptam, it is all pervading. And the closest that comes to that definition is space. We know that there is space everywhere, and that's why this space is that which accommodates. And so the building, the house, the entire world is held in space. So space is in and through everything, but this pure consciousness is even subtler than space. So actually space is being held in pure consciousness. That is how we have to ultimately understand it. Not that consciousness is in space, but space is in consciousness. So that's what abha rupamidam sarvam ya bhantam anubhat. So all this is because of that presence of consciousness. Everything else is shining. Means what? Means because we are conscious, there is a conscious being. That's why this entire inert world is being illumined. So and yeah, and I think we have done that. So 1:30 we have to start today. Anyway, yasya sannidhi matrena, sannidhi, just by the mere presence. In Atma Bodh, Bhagwan has given the example of the king. You know, when the king is there, everybody tends to work. Just he's there, he's not saying anything. Like I gave you the example. You see a police car on the road, and he may not even know that you're existing, but everybody comes off of the accelerator. So that is something. Just the mere presence is there. He's not even. He's probably in his own thoughts, but just because there is a police car, we are like, oh, you know, we tend to slow down. That is what is meant by Sannidhi Matra. It means here what is also being said is that he is the non-doer. He doesn't actually do anything. That is what is to be done. Like if you take the example of the sun is actually not doing anything. The nature of the sun is to shine. So it is not even shining. It is, the sun doesn't have ego that I'm the one that is shining and now you are all working in my presence. That ego is not there for the sun. It's his nature. It's the nature of the sun to shine. So it just shines. It cannot but help shine. And that's why we say that even when a criminal activity is going on, the sun keeps shining because he doesn't have a choice. The sun does not have a choice. Oh, let me not shine on this one. Let me just shine on that one. The sun doesn't have a choice. That's why it is a choiceless existence. Therefore, the pure consciousness, it is objectless awareness and is a choiceless existence. So it doesn't have a choice but to exist and to lend that existence to everything in this world. So that's why this is how it is. It's the nature of the pure consciousness. That is the nature. So that is how it is. And in that presence, it is up to us to decide whether I should do good or bad. It's, if we were to go to our electricity example, see, the electricity is exactly the same. And the nature of electricity is to give power, to generate power. Now, if I put a 40-watt bulb in the socket, and if I put a 100-watt bulb, then the 100-watt bulb is going to give more light. But that doesn't mean that electricity is becoming 100 watts or electricity is becoming 40 watts. The power of electricity is the same, and it's the nature of electricity to give that power. But if I put an upadhi, an instrument which is not very powerful, then that light is not going to be powerful. That doesn't mean that the electricity has become 40 watts or electricity has become 100 watts or electricity is partial. Oh, electricity is giving more power to this 100-watt bulb and therefore there is more light in this room and there is less light in that room. That we cannot say. So pure consciousness is impartial. There is no partiality. Just like the sun is not partial at all. Same amount of sunlight will be there when crime is going on, and same amount of sunlight will be there when the satsang is going on. So it's a choiceless existence. And that is one of the things that as spiritual seekers we are told, don't give ourselves too many choices. That is how we learned in the ashram. We had no choice. We had to wear these white saris. So it was actually, it was very stress-free life. We had to be in the kitchen at that time, otherwise no lunch. We had to be there at, if you want dinner, you be there at 8. If you want lunch, you be there at 12. Otherwise no dinner, no lunch. So it was very choiceless. So we had no stress. The bell would ring and then, okay, lunchtime, okay, dinner time. And the timings were such that we were hungry at that time. And if you wanted to skip a meal, fine, skip a meal. But if you want the meal, then you can't say, oh, I'm not hungry now, I'll come at 2 o'clock. That choice was not there. So choiceless existence. The less choices you give yourself in life, you will be more closer to your core personality. The more choices there are, the more mind is getting disturbed. Should I wear this? Should I wear that? Should I do this? Should I do that? So that way the mind gets dissipated, and that's why. Now we go on to verse 130. It's page 173 in my copy. Ahankaradidehanta vishayascha sukhadayah vedyante ghatavat yena nityabodha swarupina. That because of which everything, the ego, the body, the sense objects and their pleasures, etc., are known as clearly as a jar, is of the nature of eternal knowledge. So this knowledge, like if Gurudev, in Gurudev's words, he would say it is a knowledge with a capital K. See, the knowledge that we have knowledge of physics, of chemistry, of whatever, of any subject, of a computer, whatever knowledge that we have is through the mind, through the senses. And that's why that knowledge can change. That knowledge can fade. If I can forget as I get, people forget so many things as they get old, because that is a dependent knowledge. This outside knowledge is a dependent knowledge of the material world. It is, Gurudev used to say, it is a knowledge with a small k, that which can change. But this entity, this asti, this pure consciousness is of the nature of knowledge itself. It doesn't fade. That has to be understood. It doesn't fade. It is that knowledge which allows me to know the presence as well as the absence of things, both. Generally, what is knowledge? I know chemistry, but I don't know physics. That's what we consider knowledge. I'm very knowledgeable in chemistry. I'm very knowledgeable in one subject, one whatever. But in others, I'm not knowledgeable. This knowledge is not like that I know something and I don't know something. That this pure knowledge, that's why we call pure knowledge of pure consciousness, is that knowledge which because of which I know that I know physics and I know that I don't know chemistry. So it's a knowledge which tells me that I don't know something. It is a knowledge which tells me that I know something. And that's why it is beyond knowledge and ignorance both. Because when you say knowledge, it's opposite of ignorance. Ignorance, opposite of knowledge. But the knowledge of pure consciousness is without any dualities, without any, there is no opposite to it. There is nothing opposite to it. Because to knowledge, our knowledge, ignorance is opposite. But to that knowledge, that's why it says that because of which the ego, this body, how do I know this body? Because of that pure consciousness. The ego, my own ego. So when I'm speaking, this ego is required to speak. Why? Because ego is identification with the body. So I have to identify with my vocal cords. I have to identify with my body, and then alone I can speak. So there is that ego. And now somewhere in between, when your mind gets purified, you will find the presence of that other Sakshi Chaitanya, that witness, which is actually making me know that I am speaking. This is a very subtle point, very, very subtle point. And you need a very highly purified mind to actually feel the presence of that so-called other entity, because it is really not anything other than me, myself. But that is how it is. So when you sit quietly in meditation, and that's why we say the mind should be made introverted, at that time you will know that your mind is thinking and there is somebody else knowing that this mind is thinking. Or like right now, I am speaking, and within me, I know that I'm speaking. I know that I'm moving my hands. I know that all of you are there. So there are these differences there, but it is a very, very subtle difference, and it needs a lot of thinking, and more than that, it needs purity. Mind has to be very, very, very purified, because otherwise what is happening is this ego is taking over, you know. I am speaking, I am doing, I am enjoying, I am this. This ego is so strengthened because of our Purva Janma karmas. We have done through births and births and births, we have only known the ego. We have not known the pure consciousness at all. So the ego has become very, very strong. And we have to tone down that ego to get this. That's why that is the differentiation, uh, like separating milk and water. That's why it is the most difficult. I told you, discrimination, if there is lentil and dal and rice, very easy. Yellow dal, white rice, extremely easy to separate. But when milk and water get mixed, then it is very, very difficult. So what, because of which I come to know all these, like a jar, like, you know, something in my hand. It is so very clearly seen, right? Any object in my hand, so it will become clear like that. But that is what we should for now understand, that there is the ego which is acting, which is doing, and then there is this other entity, and this other entity within us is called as Sakshi Chaitanya, or witness principle. And the reason it is called as witness is because there is something that is being witnessed. Okay. Witness is when there is something to be I am a witness of all of you because you're sitting in front of me. If you are not sitting in front of me, how can I be a witness of you guys? So witness, when we use the word, there is something else to be witnessed. And this ego, mind, body, all these are being witnessed, and therefore it is known as the Sakshi Chaitanya within us. Now, next. एषोऽन्तरात्मा पुरुषः पुराणः निरन्तराखण्डसुखानुभूतिः सदैकरूप प्रतिबोधमात्रो येनेशितावागसवश्चरन्ति. This great truth is the innermost self, the ancient Purusha, whose essential nature is the constant experience of infinite bliss, which is ever the same. Yet, it constantly gets reflected through different mental modifications, and commanded by it, the sense organs and the pranas perform their function. So here we come to the concept of the reflected consciousness. This should be understood very clearly. What is actually happening? I've given you the example before, which is from Atma Bodh, is that there is a very dark room, and the sunlight cannot directly enter that room. So what the person does, the sunlight is outside but cannot enter the room. So he takes a bucket of water and he keeps it at the door, near the door. So in that water, the sun gets reflected, and that reflection then in turn sends a beam of light into the room, and now the room is lit as well. This concept is clear? Okay, in the because sun is capable of reflecting, there is a medium. With us also, that is what is happening. Consciousness is capable of getting reflected, but to get reflected, there has to be a medium. Right? If there is no mirror here now, so can a reflection just form of me? No. But if I hold a mirror in front of me, then the object is there, I am there, the mirror is there, the medium, and then a reflection is formed in the mirror. So this mind intellect, or the subtle body, or antakarana as it is known, is very, that's why it is a subtle body. Pure consciousness is very subtle. So a subtle thing needs a subtle medium to get reflected. Example, on a beach, there is a log of wood and there is also a little, the log of wood may be huge, big, and the shell is very, very small. But the reflection of the sun happens in the shell, but not on the log of wood. Sun is the same. Sun is capable of getting reflected, but the medium is not capable of reflecting it. So even though it's a huge log of wood, there's a big log of wood, that is not a criteria. The log of wood is incapable of reflecting the sunlight. So the reflection does not happen in the log of wood. It only happens in the tiny little shell, which is lying somewhere in the sand. Same way, the subtle body is capable of reflecting the pure consciousness, and the gross body, even though it is big and huge, it cannot reflect the consciousness because it's gross. So in the subtle body, so which is the, in our example, it's the bucket and the water inside. So the bucket is like the body, and in the bucket is the water. So in the body is the mind. In that mind, in that water, in water sun reflects, in the mind consciousness reflects. That reflected consciousness in turn sends the beam of light or sentiency into the body, gross body. And that's why the gross body starts talking, crying, moving hands, walking, running, etc., etc. Is this concept clear? Any questions? This is very, very important. Now here, so if we go to the verse, this great truth is the innermost self, the ancient Purusha. Ancient word and Purusha word, you see it's in capital. So it's the pure consciousness. And ancient doesn't mean old in time. Ancient means eternal. So it's eternal. Like if you were to take, the sun is eternal. It's always there in the sky. That way, this pure consciousness is eternal, whose essential nature is the constant experience of the infinite bliss. Means its essential nature is that of bliss, is that of happiness. It is because that bliss, the nature of the pure consciousness is happiness, we actually experience happiness. That's why we feel happy, right? We attribute it to the wrong thing. We'll come back to that, but that is why it is. Now here, which is ever the same. It is ever, sun is ever the same. Like I told you, electricity is ever the same. You put a 40-watt bulb, you put a 100-watt bulb, the light is going to be different, but electricity is ever the same. To explain Brahman, you have to give these 2-3 different examples, because one example can never completely explain the actual phenomena. And that's why we give these different examples, okay? So we are giving the example of the bucket and the reflection. We're giving the example of the log of wood, and because the bucket, then we don't know why it is not reflecting in one and not the other. And then we are also giving these example of electricity to show the sameness. The electricity is same, the pure consciousness is the same. Now, yet it constantly gets reflected through different mental modifications. These mental modifications are sattva, rajas, and tamas. Okay, so what is happening is, so if we go back to our bucket, the water in the bucket can be very, very clean, very, very pure, very, very steady. Okay, or some other bucket, maybe it is on a very shaky platform, so the water inside it is trembling. And maybe there is a third bucket where the water has got dirt in it. So what is happening is the sun is exactly the same, but because of the difference in the medium, difference in the nature of the waters, the reflection is appearing different. And this is what is happening. So sun consciousness is always there. It is, that's an ancient Purusha. It is eternally there. As long as the subtle body is there, the reflection will constantly keep happening. There is no choice. It's like the beach example. So the sun is shining on the beach. As long as the shell is there, the reflection will keep happening. If you take out all the shells from the beach, then the reflection cannot happen. But as long as the shells are there, it will be there. So as long as our subtle body is there, as long as the jivas are there, this reflection will keep on happening. Now, even though the original sun is the same, but we go back to our bucket. The water, if it is not very, very clean. So mind, if it is very sattvic, that means it is extremely pure. It is very calm. In that calm mind, the reflection is at its brightest. And in a rajasic mind, it is agitated. Why? Because rajasic mind is like this. Like, what do I do now? What do I do now? What do I do now? Right? So it's shaking. The mind is shaking, so the reflection is also shaking. Its consciousness is not shaking. Sun never shakes. But if the medium shakes, if the medium is dirty, if the medium is pure, the reflection will go through all that. This is what is saying. So it constantly gets reflected through different mental modifications and commanded by it. So this modification, this reflection is now commanding what is to be done. Why? Because see, it is a reflection of the pure consciousness. It has got powers. It is enlivened itself, right? Because the reflection is exactly the same like the object. If I hold a mirror in front of me, of course that reflection is going to show glasses. It is going to show my hair exactly as it is, my nose. The reflection is going to show something totally different. If I hold a mirror, it suddenly will not show you somebody who is not wearing glasses, right? It's exactly the same. So the reflection of the pure consciousness is exactly the same like the consciousness. Okay? Reflection is the same, but the medium is what is defective or clean. It's either very, very pure, or it is agitated, or it is dull. Because of that, this reflection identifying with the medium appears very pure, very calm. Identifying with the rajasic mind, it is very agitated, and identified with a dull mind, it is very dull. And those things are now commanding the body. See, a thought comes in our mind, and then the body acts. Do you think that the body just acts without a thought? I was sitting here and I didn't hear the music. Then I thought, oh, how come there's no bhajans? Then after a while, I thought I better send a message to Dinesh. So then I walked out and got my phone, and then I saw Dinesh's message, right? So first, always there is thought, then there is action. Otherwise, then that action has got no meaning. If you're doing thoughtless actions, then that's a different matter. If a person is drunk or insane or that we're not talking about that. But in normal circumstances, thought comes first, and that thought then drives the body to act. So depending the thought, if the reflection is very bright, it's I go in there and I think, oh, maybe somebody might say, oh, let me if the reflection, no. Best example is stop signs. You look at, there's nobody, or you drive. I've driven at 2 o'clock in the midnight and it was red light, Cambie and 41st, and I thought, oh, there's nobody here, I can just jump the red light. But if it's a sattvic mind, it'll say, no, you're still breaking the law. Just because nobody is here watching you, it doesn't give you the right to just go through a solid red light. Whereas a rajasic mind will say, Arey, there is nobody, no police car, there is no traffic. What does it matter? It's 2 in the morning, not a single car in all 4 directions. Let me just cross. Right? So this is how that reflection commands the body to do. And this is what is meant by here. And commanded by it, the sense organs and the pranas perform their functions. This command is coming from the reflection. The command never comes from the pure consciousness. Why? Because pure consciousness is the non-doer. If the commands were coming from the pure consciousness, that means that pure consciousness is doing something. It is commanding the body to act. But it doesn't. Like the sun. Sun does not tell us to have satsang. Sun does not tell us to do a crime either. Sun is not telling us anything. Sun is saying, it's my nature, I will keep shining. You choose what you want to do. Sannidhi matrena, that's why, the present. But the reflection cannot happen without the pure consciousness. So therefore, the reflection is dependent on the pure consciousness. The reflection is also dependent on the medium. And therefore, it doesn't have any real reality. Except I keep thinking that it is very, very real. It is me. Therefore, I get hurt. I get insulted. I feel happy. I feel like I have done something. And that's why now I'm going to enjoy all these things I feel. But actually, it is not. Okay, is this concept clear? All right. अत्रैव सत्त्वात्मनिधि गुहायाः अव्याकृताकाश उषत्प्रकाशः आकाश उच्चैरविवत् प्रकाशते स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं प्रकाशयन्. In this very body, in a mind full of sattva, there we go, mental modifications, in the secret cave of the intellect, in the atmosphere of the unmanifest, the Atman of captivating glory shines like the sun high in the sky, illumining this universe by its very effulgence. Okay, so when it is said this mind full of sattva, I told you, very clean and pure water. So the mind is extremely clean and pure, and therefore the reflection is at its best. Right? In a clean mind, it is where in this very body. So inside is this Atma. This is where we have to start. We start by saying that this Atma is there, Asti. It is inside our body. And the reason I've told you many times is inside we have to, if we want to gain it, that doesn't mean that Atma is not outside. We start with Atma is inside the body, and then we have to end up with body is inside the Atma. The body is in the pure consciousness. It's because of the all-pervading nature. So, and it's ever bright, ever shining. We have seen, we chant that verse, na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhati kutoya magnihi tameva bhanta mano bhati sarva. You shine first. I wake up in the morning first, and then the world shines for me. Otherwise, the world is not existing for me. Even the sun, I as a conscious being give validity to the sun. Otherwise, the sun is not there. So there has to be a conscious being giving validity to the sun. That's why it is said in chapter 15, Bhagwan will say that the light in the sun is because of me. Sun illumines the entire world, but who illumines the sun? It is me who illumines the sun. That's why tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. You shine first. There you means the pure consciousness. You shine first, and that pure consciousness is within my body, right? So I shine first. I wake up first. And when I say I, not just I, all of you. I shine first, and then this entire world shines for me. Tameva bhantam anubhati. Anu is to follow. Anubhati sarvam. Everything then follows. Once the pure consciousness is awake in the body, as the body, then the whole world shines for me. Okay, so Ravivat Prakashate, like in the sky, Uchchayi, high up in the sky, how that sun is illumining the entire universe, not just Canada, not just this one country or one place. Simultaneously, Yugapat, when the sun rises, the whole universe is illumined at the same time. Same way, pure consciousness also illumines the entire world at the same time. Okay? Captain shines like the high in the sky, illuminating the universe. It's very effulgent. So the nature of the pure consciousness, just like the sun, is to shine, is to, it's of the nature of awareness. It's of the nature of light. We shouldn't imagine it to be this type of a light. It's nature of, I am aware. I am aware. Am I not aware of my own presence? That awareness it is. It is not physically like a light. Okay, awareness. Jnata manoham kritivikriyanam dehendriya prana krita kriyanam ayognivatta nanuvartamanaha na cheshtate no vikaroti kinchana. The knower of the modifications of the mind and the ego and the activities of the body, the sense organs and the pranas, which apparently take their forms like the fire in a ball of iron, is the self which neither acts nor changes in the least. So this is, those of you who heard chapter 13, Kshetra Kshetradnya, the knower field and the knower of the field. So this is what Bhagwan is talking here, the knower of the modifications of the mind. Modifications of the mind are kshetra. We saw that. Mind changes, it is inert, and it is kshetra. And the one who knows the modifications of the mind. What is actually, suppose if I say, you know, who knows the modifications of the mind? You'll say, I know the modifications of my mind. And that I which knows in my mind, that is me. That is what I think it is me. Who knows? I know, me, that is me. What we have to differentiate is that I, which I think is me, is the reflection. Okay, it is the ego. And the pure consciousness is something different. And it is because of the pure consciousness that this ego is awareing the modifications of the body and mind and intellect. Do you get this? It's a subtle point. People think that the reflection is it. An ignorant person who has not come in contact with this knowledge, they think it is me. I am this body, mind, and intellect. I'm the one that knows that the body is changing, my mind is changing. I have changed my mind so many times. It is me. There is nothing else. And generally, they will think God is somewhere out there. God is there in the temple, in my altar. That is God. And this is me. That's where Vedanta then comes in and says, no. This me that you think you are, in actuality, you are God. You are the pure consciousness. Why? Because this me is a dependent me. The one who says, I know that I'm doing, I know that I'm speaking, I know my body. That I is a dependent I. This is what he's saying. Jnata mano aham kriti vikriyanam. This ego which keeps on changing. How does the ego change? It's identification, right? So right now I'm saying I'm a speaker. That is my ego. Then I will say I am a TV watcher or I'm a walker. Ego is changing. And there is a witness principle who is witnessing this. That right now there is a speaker and later on there'll be a walker, there'll be a eater or a cooker, cooking, cook or whatever. So this is how the ego is changing. Understand that. Because ego, one definition of ego is identification with the body, with matter. Body means matter. Any kind of, when I say I'm a whatever, you know, then that is identification that is coming out of ego. So ego, and then following are the activities of the body. I walk, I talk, etc., etc. Sense organs, I see. Pranas, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty. When I say I'm hungry, I have identified with the pranas, because hunger and thirst are the level of the pranamaya kosha, pranas. Okay, which apparently take their forms like the fire in a ball of fire. Now, this is another example that is also given in the scriptures. Swami Vidyaranya has used this in Drig Drish Vivek. So there is a ball of iron ball, which is black and cold, very given many times, and it is cold to the touch, and it is black. So now it comes in vicinity with fire. So the ball has the iron ball has a shape, right? It is round, it is cold, it is black. Okay, so it has a shape, it has a color, and the touch is not soft. It's cool. It's cold. Now it comes in touch with fire. Now fire is what? Fire is formless. It doesn't have a form. It is hot to the touch, right? And has no shape.
Right.
So this ball, when it comes in close proximity of the fire, the heat from the fire is transferred to the ball. Now what has happened is, from a black, cold iron ball, it becomes a red, hot iron ball. Okay? And the fire maybe also appears like round because the ball is there. So it appears round, but it is not, it is formless. Now this ball, iron ball, which is by itself, it is cold. It can never burn anybody. Cold, it is cool to the touch. It can never burn. But now because of the proximity of the fire, it has become hot. Now somebody goes and touches it and the ball says, I am the one that burnt you. Right? The point is, yes, the iron ball burnt because I didn't touch the fire exactly. I touched the iron ball. But where did that iron ball get the heat from? Is it naturally hot? It wasn't. It's a cold black iron ball. Now, all of a sudden, it has gotten this heat from the fire. And now it's, oh, I am the one that is hot and I am the one. This is what we are doing. This is what our ego is doing. We are getting the consciousness, the sentiency from the pure consciousness. This reflection it's a borrowed sentiency. I mean, it's lucky that consciousness doesn't do anything, because consciousness never says, I will withdraw my powers to you, like the sun. That's why I give you the example of the sun. The sun never says, I'm going to stop shining on you because you're doing wrong things. The sun never says that. It'll go on shining. Because of that, now what is happening is this ego is, that's ego, that's pride. You know, I am the one that is speaking. I am the one that is talking. I am the one that is running, walking, cooking, whatever that I'm doing. But it is a borrowed thing. Like the iron ball is saying, I'm the one that goes on burning everybody. I only burnt your house. You know, this thing. I did it. I did it. I did it. That is ego. So this is what he says here, that the self which neither acts nor changes in the least. The self never does anything. That point has to be remembered. It's a non-doer. So the self by itself, pure consciousness by itself, does not do anything. And whatever is being done by that reflected consciousness, the reflection. And that reflection is what we call Jivatma or ego. And that is where we have to differentiate between the pure self and the ego. Okay? It has the sense of doership. I do and I'm going to enjoy. And that is coming from ahankara, the ego, because it cannot come from the self. The self doesn't do and the self doesn't enjoy either. Both it doesn't do. न जायते नो म्रियते न वर्धते न क्षीयते नो विकरोति नित्यः विलीयमानेऽपि वपुष्यमुष्मिन् न लीयते कुम्भ इवाम्बरं स्वयम्. Neither it is born, nor does it die, neither does it grow, nor does it decay. Being eternal, it does not undergo any change. Even when this body is destroyed, it does not cease to exist. It is like the space in the jar that is broken. It is independent of the jar. This verse originally appears in Kathopanishad. Then Bhagavan Shri Krishna bodily lifts it, karam se, puts it in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. Then Bhagavan Shankaracharya aram se lifts it and puts it in Vivekachudamani. Original Kathopanishad, Lord Death has said this to Nachiketas. Okay. So that's why I also copy things. Bhagavan can do it, why can't I? So na jayate na mriyate. So this is a description of the pure consciousness, pure self. Ja jayate, born. It does not get born. That's why we say ancient Purusha, eternal. What is eternal? Eternal is something which is beyond time. What is within the realm of time? Whatever body, matter is within the realm of time. It came in time, it will go in time. So this one, na jayate, na mriyate. It does not die. Now, there are 6 modifications of the body. This same verse will be coming soon in chapter 2 as well. So I have no choice but to repeat. So the 6 modifications are beginning with asti. Asti is existing when the fetus exists in the womb. That is the first modification. Second is its birth. So jayate, so it's born. Then there is change. There is growth, there is decay, and there is death. There are these 6 modifications that happen in matter. So there is change and there is growth. So change is where the scriptures give the example of the tomato, which grows to its full size as green, and then it changes its color to red. So the difference between change and growth is there is a growth in cells, whereas change, there is no growth in cells. So these are the 6 modifications. When they say na jayate na mriyate, actually even here it says na vardhate. In Bhagavad Gita, he only uses 2. He says not born, not death. Then you have to take all the in-between modifications are also not there. So he says it's not born. Because it is not born, it can never die. That's why Gurudev has said, if you don't want to die, please don't get born, because the one who's born is going to die. There is no doubt about that, right? So na jayate na vardhate, growth. It doesn't grow, means it doesn't become big or small. Na kshiyate, no decay. Kshiyate is decay. So decay is, in old age, we all know what decay is. Na vikaroti, it doesn't modify. There's no modification. There's no change. There's no growth. There is no change. There is no decay. There is no death, and there is no birth. Okay. So only the first one coming into existence has not been said. Vikaroti nityaha, nitya, the very, very important word, beyond time. Nitya is to be understood as beyond time. Viliya mane vipavushamushmi. So even when this body is destroyed, and this is what we studied in Bhagavad Gita, when Bhagavan begins his teaching, he says, you are grieving for those who should not be grieved, right? They have been here, they are there now, and there. And I told you, they were there previously as Atma, not as the body. Body can never remain. So they were there as the Atma. So it is Nitya. Atma is Nitya. This is what is being said here. Just now he gives the example of space and jar. So there is space inside the jar. This example is used by Nisargadatta Maharaj. He I've talked about Nisargadatta Maharaj a lot of times. So his philosophy is Soham, I am that, as opposed to Bhagavan Raman Maharshi, who said Koham. He said question. So the question is, who am I? Koham. And Nisargadatta Maharaj is the answer. Soham, I am that. So there is a negation, and this is a affirmation. So this, he says that the space in the jar, when the jar is broken, the space just merges with the outside space. It is the same. It always was the same. Just because it was in the jar, it is not different from the space outside. Like our house example is also there. We have a kitchen space, and we have a bedroom space and a living room space, but all that is because of the walls that we have constructed. Once we break the walls, that space will merge, will be one. So we have only imagined that we have broken space. Space can never be broken. So Atma is also like that. Atma cannot be broken. So just because this body is there, that means there is Atma here and then there is no Atma somewhere. It's not like that. And when the body perishes, when the body breaks, when the jar breaks, just that the space will merge, this Atma will also merge into the totality. Okay. This is a direct description of Atma, of the pure self. So that's why, yeah, I've underlined this on the next page, the second last verse. That which is never born nor dies, nor grows nor reduces, nor ever is modified, is infinite, eternal, nitya. So it is beyond time. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've just had one question. I was just trying to, like you said, that what is the difference between change and modification? Like I thought changes are like when the
Not change and modification, change and growth. As change and modification is same. Change and growth, I'm saying.
okay.
Because growing also is changing, and changing also is changing. So what is the difference? But in change, it is like the tomato going from green to red, and growing is the small tomato becoming big. That's the difference. Because these two are used as modifications in matter. So then the question arises, how come change and then growth? What is the difference? That is the difference. Hair going gray, that is change. That is not growth. There's no cells there. It just changes color. That's what it is.
Okay, Jaya Jimoni here. And now that you said this is that this shloka or this couplet says that this once this jar is broken, space merges. So when a person dies, so what merges? Is this the reflection, or what merges with the eternal thing? That's
okay.
Okay.
So, so there are two things actually when a person, in case of a person, there are two things. One thing is a realized master. Okay, so for him, there is no Jivatma anymore. There is only Atma. So Atma merges with Atma and there is no more future birth. But for an ignorant person who has not realized himself to be, where the space has not realized itself to be the eternal space, where the Jivatma has not realized its eternal nature, it means that it's carrying vasanas with it. So it actually doesn't merge at that point. It actually looks for another body, and there is again another body which it will get. But what merges is the reflection disappears. Why? Because the subtle body is separated from the gross body. So that reflection, if it has within the lifetime of that person, if that reflection has realized its falsity, its false nature, has realized it as its own nature, that, oh, this is false and what is real is only the pure consciousness, then when the body falls, that is what is Videha Mukti. When the body falls, that Atma will merge with Atma. But for most of us who are ignorant and who will die ignorant, at least for me, then what will happen is it will look for another body, that Jivatma.
Okay.
Okay.
And probably that is one's desire, because the desires are to fulfill some more things.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Because the vasanas are not yet fulfilled, the vasana kshaya has not happened, a destruction of all the vasanas. So those vasanas have to find fulfillment somewhere. So it will go and find another body where it can fulfill its own vasanas. Okay.
Dayaji, Dashath here. Just a question. In the first paragraph, last sentence, it says, similarly, the PFT is born. What does PFT stands for?
Perceiver, feeler, thinker, the ego.
Okay.
So when you see the chart, there is the Om, if you've seen it before, Om, and then V for Vasanas, then BMI, body, mind, intellect, then perceiver, feeler, thinker.
Okay.
That is what it is, PFT. That is the ego.
Okay.
Because that is the Jivatma. That's what I said, you know, that reflection which says that I am talking, I am listening, I am doing this, I am doing that. That is the PFT.
Thank you.
The one who perceives, feels, and thinks. So let's read the next verse. Prakriti vikruti bhinnaha shuddha bodha swabhavaha sad asad idam ashesham bhasayan nirvisheshaha vilasati paramatma jagrad adi avastha jagrad adishu avastha swaham aham iti sakshat sakshi rupena buddhehe. Different from Prakriti and its modifications is the Supreme Self, of the nature of pure knowledge. It is absolute and directly manifests the entire gross and subtle universe as the very essence behind the steady sense of egoism. It manifests itself as the witness in the intellect, the determining faculty in man. Okay. So here, once again, because this is still description of the pure consciousness which is going on, and this is another way of describing it that is different from Prakriti. Prakriti is Maya or matter. In chapter 13, Kshetra. Kshetra, what was defined as Kshetra in chapter 13, this is what Prakriti is. And Prakriti Vikruti Bhinnaha. So it is different from Prakriti, and Vikruti is the modifications that happen in Prakriti. Okay, so there is matter, and in matter, those are the modifications that we heard in the previous verse. Na jayate, na mriyate. So birth, death, growth, decay. All these are modifications that are happening in Prakriti, which is matter, which is body. Okay, you don't have to go somewhere far to look for matter. Matter is right sitting here. Matter is only sitting here, body. So these modifications are happening, and this pure self is different from this body and its modifications. Means it has got nothing to do with the modifications. It has got nothing to do with the body. And its nature is Shuddha Bodha Swabhava. Swabhava here is nature. Its nature is Shuddha, pure. Body is very impure. Okay, we have already seen a description of the body. It is made up of all dirty things only. We only consider itself to be beautiful because of the skin. Otherwise, it is not worth looking at. So this pure self is immaculate. It is very, very pure. Shuddha. It's of the nature of knowledge. Matter, body is, there's more ignorance in us than knowledge. But the nature of that is Shuddha Buddha. That's why the last, the Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, the last name for Gurudev, 108 names, that is the last name, right? So Shuddha, pure, Bodha is of the nature of knowledge. And Sat, Asat, Idam, Ashesham. So it is beyond Sat and Asat. This also we have explained in chapter 13. Sat, real, and Asat is unreal. It is beyond both. Why? Because it is supporting both Asat and Sat. It is supporting, therefore it is beyond both. Because if we call pure consciousness as Sat, it becomes a pair of opposites. When we say it is Sat, it is opposite of Asat. But pure consciousness is not opposed to anything. This point has to be understood very, very well. That's why we don't call it as knowledge, because if you say it is knowledge of something, then that is opposite of ignorance. Therefore, we have also Shanti and Ashanti, but pure consciousness is called as Prashanti. Prakarshena Shanti, because you cannot call it as Shanti, peace, because Shanti, then there is an opposite Ashanti. And there is nothing opposing the pure consciousness. It is, please understand that it is of the nature of light. So if you say light in the ordinary parlance, that light is opposed to darkness, right? Because when light is there, darkness cannot be there. Understand this, this is a very subtle point. But the light of pure consciousness is not that light which will disappear in darkness. Okay, the light of consciousness is that which is making us aware of the darkness. So it is actually supporting the darkness. It is supporting the light outside, and therefore it is beyond both. Therefore it is beyond Sat and Asat. Idam Ashesham. There is nothing full. It is full, absolute, and direct, manifests entire gross and subtle universe as the very essence behind the steady sense of egoism. The steady sense of egoism is what is telling us what we know, what we don't know, our judgments, our thoughts, everything. This is coming from the sense of egoism. That is coming from ego. So it is supporting all that. That's why Bhagavan Shri Krishna also says that I am equally present in Arjun and Duryodhan. There he didn't have a choice. Bhagavan doesn't have a choice there. But Duryodhan's upadhi, his mind is crooked. What can Bhagavan do? Because Bhagavan's nature is that it's like the sun. I told you, the sun, whether you're doing a crime or satsang, sun is shining only. So Bhagavan is like that. So that's why this is Sat Asat Idam Ashesham. Bhasayan Nirvisheshaha. So Bhasa Nirvishesha, without any qualification, it goes on shining, shining, shining. Because that's its nature. It cannot help but shine. Cannot help. That's why we give the example of sun there. The sun cannot help but shine, but illumine. What can it do? It cannot say that, I will give darkness to you because you're doing something bad. It can't. Okay. It manifests as the Vilasati Paramatma Jagrad Adishu Avastha. So Jagrad Adishu means etc. and it means dream and deep sleep. So Jagrat etc. means waking etc. means waking, dream and deep sleep. So Vilasati Paramatma means it is present in all the three states. and yet it is unaffected by all the three states. So whatever is happening in the waking state, whatever is happening in the dream state, whatever is happening or not happening in the deep sleep, it is different. It is not becoming the waker, it is not becoming the dreamer, it is not becoming the deep sleeper. It is actually the one who is illumining the waking state, illumining the dream state, illumining the deep sleep state. Swaham aham iti sakshat sakshi rupena buddhe, and it is present as sakshi rupena. That's why I told you sakshi chaitanya, or in Swami Vidyaranya's words, he uses the word kutastha. There's one word, technical word, kutastha. Kuta means anvil. So stha is staying. So, you know, in a blacksmith's shop, there is this one solid piece of iron. It stays firm, and on that he puts his tools and he bangs on them, right? Or even the goldsmith, there will be something which is very steady. That is what Kuta says. Or the other example is the hub of the wheel. That is also said. The hub remains steady and the spokes, they go on turning around that hub, but the hub in the center is steady. Okay, so in us, this Atma is there, present as the witness principle. And why witness? Because it is witnessing the three states, it is witnessing the three bodies, body, mind, and intellect, gross body and subtle body. And vasanas also it is witnessing, but vasanas we don't know. So this is what swaham aham iti sakshat sakshi rupena. It is present as the witness consciousness within us. It is the one that is and the reason it is called as witness consciousness is because we think that there is a body which is real. When you go into deeper, subtler thought, this witness principle also is negated. Why? Because there is nothing to be witnessed. This is another, it's a little subtle. So right now, stay at the witness principle, Kutas the stage, that this body is real. I think the body is real, mind is real, you know, I'm real. So, okay, so then fine, body is real. Then there is this Kutasa, which is witnessing this real body of yours. You think the body is real? Okay, so it is witnessing. Okay. Is it okay? Is people understanding or getting more confused? Am I confusing you guys more? Good. Any questions? We'll look at this verse again next time if you want. Oh, now we've come to the next topic, advice for self-control. I think then it's going to be easy when there is some advice because then this body is real, mind is real. Now do this, do that. Then that appeals to us. You know why? Because we are doers. We want a to-do list. Oh, okay, okay, I'll do that. So it'll get easier. Because when you talk about the absolute, you know, it's hard. It's not that easy. Any questions? Okay. Om swasti prajabhyah paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahishaha go brahmanebhyah shubhamastu nityam loka samasta sukhino bhavantu kale varshatu parjanyah prithvi sasya shalini desho yam kshobarahita brahmana santu nirbhayaha. Om sarvesham swasti bhavatu sarvesham shantir bhavatu sarvesham purnam bhavatu sarvesham mangalam bhavatu sarve bhavantu sukhinah सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरिः ॐ. Hari Om everybody. I'll see you next time.